Hello, I'm Miha.
Hi, and I'm Cow.
Today, we're going to talk to you about the characteristics of effective data animations.
If when Miha says data animation, you're picturing a moving graph, well then you know exactly what a data animation is.
We'll start off by addressing perception, go into how to effectively use color and motion.
Then we'll dive into data stories and how to effectively tell them.
To make effective data animations, we can use the science of perception to hack into the brain of our viewers. So, what is perception? Look at these two people on the screen. If you're able to distinguish me from Cav right now, that's your brain perceiving our faces. It's paying attention to details about the world, making meaning of that information, and taking action. If you're nodding your head or humming, you're successfully perceiving me. Well, if you're frowning, you're technically still perceiving, but why would you frown? Smile, because we're about to get into some juicy perception hacks that will help your audience make sense of your data animations. Perception works in 3 steps. We first notice the basic features of the environment, like color and shape. To make it easier for the brain to process the data animation, we could start by displaying a layout, then the legends, then the numbers, and then the bars. This technique also helps the presenter tell the story in a progressive manner, building up to the big picture. Next, we look for repeating patterns of design in these basic features. Which regions are yellow? Which regions are dark? Which are bright? Which bars have equal length? Which shapes are round and which have corners? We can manipulate our data animations so that similar patterns appear together, making it easier for the brain to group similarities and distinguish differences. Let's say that we're looking at the total annual income of 5 businesses. We can group companies with similar incomes, color them green, and animate them simultaneously. Meanwhile, the outlier will be presented last with a blue color. The brain will categorize information and help us tell a good story. In the final stage of perception, we focus our attention on the most relevant aspects of the stimulus. This could be a specific value or variable in our case, which is why it's important to use the power of storytelling to animate our data from an order of least to most relevant. Let's check out some examples of data animations that use 2 essential elements of perception to capture the audience's attention. These are color and motion. Did you know that color can influence the direction of perceived motion? In this data animation, the color blue was used to depict areas that were influenced by the cold in the US during the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday weekend. It also gives the impression that there's a wave of cold descending from top to bottom. Color contrast can be used to highlight different aspects of the data. This example makes use of the complementary colors of orange and blue against a black background. These color choices help the audience separate meteorite collisions in orange with mass in blue. Color can also be used to depict change, as we can see in this animated map of the breathing Earth. Green is used to indicate the rise and fall of the growing season in the Northern Hemisphere and the seasonal changes. You can animate color to bring life to your graphs, especially when conducting trend analysis. Moving on to motion. What sets data animations apart from static data viz is motion. If used effectively, this is a tool that will help your audience maintain context as you move through different sets of datasets. Duration is a key element of motion. Too fast impedes your audience's understanding, and too slow wears out the story. The secret is to balance the complexity of your animation with timing. For simple data, you can break down your animation into short logical steps. For more complex data, you can use repeating GIFs to avoid dragging the length of your animation. According to the Gestalt law of causality, visual elements must be synchronized within at least 1/6 of a second to be perceived as progression. This means that simple motions can establish a good understanding of flow. No need to go crazy with flying charts and jumping bars. Elegance is a virtue in animating data. Motion is the perfect tool for depicting trend insights. It helps the viewers visualize a progression over time. Motion was used in this example to depict differences in various wages. The higher the wage, the faster the money prints, and the lower the wage, the slower the money prints.
Let's move on to effective storytelling with data animations. According to Jock McKinley of Tableau, data stories are key to driving impact in organizations. Data sets by themselves are dry. For McKinley, data animations are great for showing audiences what changed and what stayed the same, for waking up audiences, and for showing audiences the logical steps of your data story. You can create such a story in just 3 steps: the setup, the logical steps, and the findings. That is, what trend or what pattern does your data story show? In order to set up your data story effectively, you should ask questions like, what am I trying to animate? Why? What are my variables? In order to convey meaning to your audience, you need to help them become aware of the context of what they're seeing. Then, there are many different kinds of logical steps. For example, you can graphically step forward through a sequence of years, also known as filtering by time. Or you can compare, for example, income across different job categories. But animations can't tell the story on their own. You need words. Data animations are just there to illustrate the logic that you verbally explain, according to McKinley. We also want to make sure that our audiences understand our data animations. That's where the congruence and apprehension principles come in from Tversky and Morrison. According to the congruence principle, we should use graphical elements in our data animations that are intuitive to understand. For example, mapping an increasing rate on an increasing slope. In fact, according to Tversky and Morrison, we can see natural cognitive preferences for spatial representations in kids as young as 5 years old. Then, according to the apprehension principle, our data animations should be accurately understood by our audiences. A good technique for helping your audiences understand your data story is not to overwhelm them. Just keep it simple. For example, if you have a moving progress, pie, or a donut chart, just include one or a few slices that are easy to read. If you have a moving bar graph, just include a few columns that are easy to scan. Animated data viz is a little bit more complicated than static graphs because, well, you're going to be showing a lot more on the screen. We want to make sure that our stories are easy to read. We can help our audiences by omitting details and focusing on the volume of data as it changes, including the direction of change and any patterns.
Well, that wraps it up for our presentation of effective data animations.
We hope that you feel pretty confident knowing what elements of color, motion, and storytelling can be used to create effective data animations to help your audiences understand your data.
Thanks for listening, and let us know if you have any comments in the comments section down below.